Hi there. Now I'd just like to share a few examples of some kits with you and give you some ideas of materials and activities that you can try. When I can't find a container that I like, I will sometimes start with something like a plain paper bag and then decorate it however I want to. This one happens to be about money, so I just stuck a thing from the dollar store on it. A lot of times I use gift bags or whatever. So this center starts with the book called Alexander Who Used to Be Rich last Sunday. And the idea is a kid has a dollar and he keeps spending his money and whatever. So when I introduce this center, I usually first of all would read the story to the kids so they get what it's about. And then I take the actual independent learning center and explain everything to the kids of how they are to do it. And I only do that one time. So 3 days from now, if somebody can't remember how to do the center, they need to ask a partner. Once I have described it once, that's it. So in this particular one, one example for a workspace might be just using tissue paper. In this case, I just put some more of that dollar store money on the tissue paper, and then I would run it through the laminator. So now I have a workspace for the kids to put all their things on. The other thing in that center would be money. In this case, I like to put money in a coin purse. It helps me keep all the coins together and it makes the kids a little more accountable for wanting to get in it. In that particular story, you start out with $1, and for little kids I use the correct denominations. So I have 7 dimes, 4 nickels, and 10 pennies, which is $1. And then every time he spends money in the story, the kids can use the coins. So if he spends 7 cents, they have a nickel and 2 pennies. With older kids, though, I like to not have the correct denominations so that kids can be making change and back and forth. If you have a kid with special needs, they might just go through the story and use a calculator. The idea is to keep track of the spending of the money. So this center has a coin purse in it, so the kids then take this center back to their seat. They reread the story, and as they go through the story, they spend the money. Along with the money theme, though, another thing I like to put in there is some different kinds of menus so that kids can actually do kind of a pretend restaurant scenario. And these are kind of fun. Sometimes I find them at the dollar store, but if I can't find them, I just run them on the computer, the old-fashioned guest checks, so that kids then go through the menu. And with little kids, I might just say, pretend you have $5. What 2 or 3 things would you buy? But with older kids, I say, okay, you need to pick an entree, a beverage, a dessert. Start with $20, find out how much you're going to spend, how much change there'll be. So it's just another scenario. Sometimes if you can't find a workspace, I just make it up. I can take something like a plain piece of construction paper, although I prefer the longer one, and I will give it to a couple kids and say, I need a paper that's going to have money on it. Go ahead and decorate it. Or menus or whatever it happens to be. So sometimes I find the right thing I want. Sometimes I create the thing I want. And many times I have the kids work on it as well. So that's kind of an example of things that you could use. Sometimes I have centers that are kind of theme based. So for example, maybe I'm doing something with frogs. Okay, so here's an example of a gift bag that happens to have a frog in it, so that makes a great container. I just used some cardstock from like scrapbooking and made a little pretend lily pad out of it, and I put some stick-on frog stickers on there so that they can, just have the workspace. And then in this case, I put in a bunch of little ducks that would be in the pond. And for young kids, this might be a storytelling scenario. So they're going to talk about there were 2 ducks in the pond and then 3 more, whatever. With older kids, I actually have them create and write a story problem and then put it back in the center. Then the next student who comes, they need to take out the previous story, solve the story problem, and then create another one. So this is kind of an ongoing center where kids continue to put things in. This is just something I found at the dollar store too, but when kids are doing the storytelling, they really like to do the role playing. So it goes along with the frog theme. And this is also something I found at the dollar store. And what I like about these is you just have tons and tons of pages for them to write their own story problems on. Or sometimes I will take a book like this apart and laminate the sheets so that they're usable. Or I will create a story problem on every one, and then the kids go through and solve them. So there's so many. If I do have the kids do it, then I have them put the solution on the back. So there's really so many things you can do with that type of a scenario. And it all kind of fits in with that theme. Speaking of the theme, this actually is a bag that I found at, I think it was Toys R Us, but I wanted to make note that sometimes I also include a little hand sanitizer, because nowadays, I guess the more we can help with those germs in the room, the better. Here's an example. This is kind of a lot of things that go around one theme. This time I used the theme of butterfly. And I started with a story called 10 Wriggly Wiggly Caterpillars. And it's pretty primary, for little kids at the beginning. They start out with 10 caterpillars. And on every page, there's one less caterpillar. So it's a great introduction to subtraction, where on each page, one caterpillar is leaving, and so on. And that's the beginning of that. But there are all kinds of other books out there about caterpillars and butterflies that you can make up. So this particular center, first of all, I found a bag that just happens to have butterflies on it. And this one still has the tag on it. It was 88 cents. So I guess I didn't get it at the dollar store, but whatever. It works out well. Different workspaces. This, for example, is a plastic tablecloth from like a birthday party theme. So sometimes I want a larger workspace. If 4 kids are going to work together, they can actually put the tablecloth out. But more often what I'll do is cut this into pieces, and then I'll have a few different workspaces for them to be able to lay out. Another workspace is, I'm surprised at how many different things I find at the scrapbook store. The thing I liked about this one is not only did it have the butterflies, but it has lines. So I could actually write out the directions of what I want the kids to do at any particular center. And as I mentioned before, sometimes you'll just find gift bags that happen to have your theme. Another thing I like for the workspace is sometimes material. I often check out the cheap bins, the ones that are 25 and 50 cents. This one actually was 50 cents, and it's just a hunk of material made of butterflies. So it works out for a nice workspace. The other thing, also at the dollar store, was I found this bag full of notes, and thank goodness they're all blank on the inside. So again, some examples could be that I could put a task. These could be task cards, and I could write the math that I want them to do on each card. Or I could laminate them and have them use them as their workspace or their places to do the activity. Or I will sometimes make up different things for each one. They just happen to follow the theme. Another thing I like is stampers. So this happened to be a stamp set that had the acrylic stamps. And on this particular one, it's hard to see, I put a couple butterflies on it. And the reason I wanted to put 2 on there is like when we're introducing multiplication, for example, I could say predict. If I stamp the butterfly stamper 4 times or 3 times, how many butterflies will I end up with? Well, if there's 2 on this thing and I do it 3 times, they have to come up with a multiplication problem. Then they actually go ahead and do the stamper, and then underneath here they would write 2 times 3 equals 6. It still follows the butterfly theme. Another thing I like is something like this. This is just a stencil, but for little kids to be able to illustrate a story with butterflies, same kind of thing. There were 3 butterflies in the tree, and then 1 flew away, and they could write the number. The other thing that kids will do, again with multiplication, is they could actually create the arrays. So I can make 4 rows of butterflies with 3 in each row. 3 times 4 equals 12, all with a stencil. Also, a lot of times at places like scrapbooking stores, here happened to be one that had a bunch of butterflies. So I just punched out the butterflies that I needed, and now I have my own little set of manipulatives where kids can actually use their hard cardboard, and they have the little butterflies that they can do that with. And then also, this was also at the dollar store. These are just peel and stick. They're actually borders and designs for on the wall. The nice thing I like about it is that it's 2-sided. So once I actually take these apart, I can find matching ones. You know, if I'm doing a science lesson, this can deal with how caterpillars become butterflies, and also if I'm doing geometry, I can find which butterflies have a line of symmetry, all kinds of things. Another thing I like to use sometimes for a different workspace could be plain old wrapping paper. Just happens to be wrapping paper that's full of butterflies, and so I could cut any size I want, run it through the laminator, there I have my workspace. Also, the craft part of the dollar store, like this was a whole bunch of styrofoam butterflies. So what you can do with this is endless. Again, these could be the manipulatives where they actually do the story. If I'm doing symmetry, I could have them fold the butterfly in half and do a design on each side. If I do that, I use stickers sometimes so I can take them back off. There are different amount of colors. I think there's about 5 of each color so that they can do any type of number situations with that. So just following a simple theme of butterflies gave me lots of examples there. Something as simple as an egg carton. You know, you could buy the little plastic eggs and you could put tasks in each one, put them in here. Sequencing, you can put the different parts of the story, put them in here, they take them apart, do the sequencing and so on. Sometimes something as simple as a whiteboard in a center is great because kids can do their math on it, wipe it off, and it's good to go. If you can't even think of what, oh, let me do just a little bit more of this. I mentioned a workspace. Here is a workspace I found at the fabric store, at the scrapbook store, and it's all rulers, and they actually happen to be true inches. What a perfect workspace. Put that with a book on measurement and a couple activities, and the kids' workspace is actually part of the center. Sometimes something like a simple placemat, you can decorate it or have the kids decorate it. Sometimes I use the placemat. Here's another one. This one happens to have leaves. So if I'm doing a science unit on leaf identification, it's already right on the center. Sometimes I find these at the dollar store, and they're just nice ways for kids to be able to write their task on here, or I'll just laminate it and I will write the task that goes with it. If you don't even know where to begin for a center, you might just start with something with basic facts. Every grade that you teach is dealing with basic facts. So it can be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, or any combination. So you'd start with some plain bag again and just decorate it however you want to decorate it and put numbers on there or give it to kids and tell them to decorate it. And then you need number generators in there. So things like a deck of cards. Kids can pick 2 cards. They can add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them. They're numbers. Another thing they can use are dominoes. The nice thing about dominoes is we have doubles. We have blanks give us zeros. Ones give us the identity properties. So plain old dominoes. Any given domino you can add, subtract, multiply, divide. Sometimes the kids will, for one like this, you know, you get a 5th grade and say, I can't divide that, I'll have a remainder. Good, you need to practice remainders. So dominoes I like as number generators. Simple number cubes, and you know, a lot of the dollar stores have fun ones that get bigger so that kids can shake 2 dice, add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them. Or with old, you know, 2nd, 3rd grade when you're starting to work on 2-digit addition and subtraction, they roll 2 number cubes, a 2 and a 3 becomes 23 or 32. Then they roll a 4 and a 6, it's 46 or 64, and then they can add them, subtract them. Great way to generate numbers. And sometimes you'll find different kinds of containers that just kind of fit with the theme if that's what you want to go with. So I go through different stickers from the craft store, the scrapbook store, and that helps me come up with it. So this is really a small sampling of some things that are out there, but now you're ready to do one. So you're going to think about what you want to use. Sometimes you start with a piece of literature, sometimes you don't. So you will need a container to put it in. You'll need a workspace for the kids to lay the stuff out on so that it's not all over the floor or their desk. And then what goes in there is the math. Good luck. See you soon.